Is kind of an overview of the membership and discipleship engagement led by myself and with the team of wonderful people of Olyvia and really honestly Olyvia. So I think the plan was to have Glendy be a part of it, but Glendy took a sabbatical, so she wasn't really involved at all. But I just kind of wanted to give you a brief overview of how the membership, discipleship, and engagement went. Some wins of this year, some things that kind of we learned real fast. We won't go too deep into it as we're going to, probably has been said, go over that later. But here's a brief description of kind of every single one we did and the wins and losses of it. So we launched men's ministry and women's ministry. Men's had some events in a man camp, and they're going to do some more stuff during the summer to connect men. And women's ministry launched by Amy, and she is doing stuff with that. So that was great. We did that. Obviously, we always can improve men's ministry and women's ministry, but we did launch them. So that high five. Define a timeline of list potential candidates for each of the 10 new leaders per ministry. I think we checked this off because it's been a while. I think we checked it off because we did do this. We defined a timeline and we did come up with a list of potential candidates for each of the 10 new leaders. Now, if we recruited them, that's a whole different question, but we did define it. So I don't know. That one, honestly, is probably for me like a half check mark, but we checked it. Pastors each launch and already leading a community group by October 1st. This is checkmarked because at the time we did have I believe it's by October 1st. It's been a bit, so I can't really remember the details, but every one of our pastors is leading a community group. Pastor Nate and Mike have plans to lead a community group and are moving towards that. They really did a good job of developing a leader and handing their community groups off so they could start new ones. Mike's thinking about starting either a old person or a 55 and older group or some kids ministry groups, still thinking through that. And then Nate's working on with a couple other couples about starting a family group. So that's that. Way to go. High five. We did that. Find leaders for classes to complete communication strategy implemented. We did some classes this year in groups. So we did some FPU classes, some other ones, and we found some leaders for those classes. They taught it. I wouldn't say this was a giant, we check marked it because it happened. We did it. I'd love to kind of figure out for the next year some more different classes. I think we've kind of run through like FPU, for example. Either people don't see the value of FPU, and we pushed it pretty good this year, I thought, or they've all just gone through it. And so what other classes do we need to tackle to engage people? So this one, honestly, this idea was to have in the spring a ministry fair. We did do a ministry fair, though, in March, a part of our This Is Us series. And we got people, each North Church ministry, if you guys remember, had a little booth out there. We talked about it and signed people up according to their ministry gifts. So, boom, I'm going to check mark it. Even though we were hoping to do that in the spring, we did that in March, so way to go. This is Olyvia, so after this video, you can definitely talk a little bit more, Olyvia, about this, but schedule and implement 4 teachings a year on serving topics like spiritual gifts. I think we hit a lot of them. We talked through some ideas of how that's kind of what this is, of how we can accomplish that, but we did that through the Love Your Neighbor. We did that through the This Is Us series. I think I would say we probably talked about it on stage where serving opportunities 4 times, but not necessarily every time linked it to a spiritual gift. So we definitely gave plenty of opportunities from the stage for people to serve, but maybe not linked it to a spiritual gift. Schedule 4 teachings a year on generosity in a giving topic. Boom, did that. Way to go. High five, everybody. Way to go, Olyvia, for planning that out. Identify volunteer opportunities and pair spiritual gifts correlated with the open roles to help congregations serve. We did that throughout the year. we probably need to do a better job at working with each individual ministry and saying, hey, out of the spiritual gifts, or how are we tackling every volunteer and making sure they're using their spiritual gifts? We could probably work better at doing that. Communicate volunteers and potential leaders for the leadership pathway. We did do that. Way to go. We did ask staff. They all communicated that. I know in groups I communicated that. We made a little, if you don't know, on Planning Center, there is a leadership pathway workflow that you can use. If you don't know about that or you don't know how to use that, find me. And so the one thing that on here you'll say make video about pathway. We didn't necessarily do that. We probably should. That way when new staff members get on, it could be something they easily jump on and watch a video and see. Intentionally train and engage staff on generosity. That was Nate's. I think actually in the beginning it was Larry's. Larry, I think, has already sent out an email saying, hey, about a training he's going to do specifically on this. So even though it's not checkmarked right now, I think it will be checkmarked. So overall, I would say we did a great job. There's obviously ways to improve on a lot of these where I would say we checkmarked it because the bare minimum got done. I'd love to see maybe if we ever did this again. Some of these we continue to grow in. And then some of these, I think they just didn't get checked off because we missed maybe a part of it. And we didn't fully dive into the whole thing. But definitely has some really great stories through this, especially through the leadership pathway, community groups, classes, seeing people engage in ministry and men's and women's groups. So overall, good job, team, Olyvia. Olivia's there so she can tell you more that I didn't miss. So awesome.